Welcome everybody, breaking blockchains. We are the Cryptards. Come take a ride on the crypto short bus.
And you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna fucking smash it!
So we've been doing all these videos, and the number one thing that people are asking me is, what is the blockchain?
What is it? How's it work?
So we're gonna kind of take a step back from our advanced Cryptard videos.
Right.
And do some basic.
Like usually
videos.
we do like little spectrum-y stuff, like we're on the spectrum. But today, we're going full Cryptard.
So we're gonna take you all the way back to the beginning, and instead of us taking time out of our day to make a video, we're using this guy's video.
Yeah, because we're Cryptards, and we don't know how to make videos like this.
Shout out to Simply Explained.
Yeah.
We give you credit, not plagiarism.
Yeah.
We're not someone. Anyway.
Simply, but way too fast and way too technical explained.
So should we get started?
And always remember, hodl.
Alright. So we're gonna play it and we'll talk to you as it goes. Ready?
I'm ready.
Alright.
Blockchains are incredibly popular nowadays. But what is a blockchain?
Well, what is a
How do they
blockchain?
work? What problems do they
What
solve?
problems do
And
they
how
solve?
can they be used?
How can they be used?
Like the name indicates, a blockchain is a chain of blocks that contains information. This technique was originally described in 1991
hold on.
by
He's already going too fast. This is not Cryptard style. So, blockchain, right? We're talking about like the image shows, right? It's blocks of information, blocks of data, right? All digital. There's no chain somewhere you're going to go find, right? It's like find the end of the rainbow. Go ahead.
a group of researchers and was originally intended to timestamp digital documents so that it's not possible to backdate them or to tamper with them, almost like a notary. However, it went by mostly unused until it was adapted by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 to
Oh,
create
blockchain! I make a blockchain. A small penis, my
Now,
blockchain.
blockchain is a
Hey!
distributed ledger that is completely
So it's a ledger of data. Created by Satoshi.
Not like Heath Ledger.
No one knows who the real
Oh,
Satoshi
I
is.
became the Joker, so I had to kill myself. It wasn't the heroin.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Right, so look here, right? Distributed ledger, that means there's all these computers, right? They don't know each other. Some might, but for the most part, nobody knows each other. And the information is distributed on each one. So each computer has to agree before a block is formed, right? And so if you have one block, then you have
Block of data.
a block of data, and then it's chained to the next block, and you can't change the block before it because the block that comes after it is storing the data from the block before. So if you go back and try to change a block, it won't match the new block, and all the other nodes, the other computers that are watching it, will say no, you can't. Those are miners. Go ahead.
So this block of data, what would you use that for? How does that relate to Bitcoin?
We're gonna get into that. Let's let this let's
right.
let Simply Explained explain it way too fast.
open to anyone. They have an interesting property. Once some data has been recorded inside the blockchain, it becomes very difficult to change it. So how does that work? Well, let's take a closer look at a block. Each block contains some data, the hash of the block, and the hash of the previous block.
All right, that's important, right? So one block, what's it got? It's got the data, right? He says data because he's, some weird xenophobic foreigner. It's got the data, hash, and the hash of the previous block. We just talked about this. So the new block knows what's in the old block. So if you try to change the old block, the new block will say no.
What's a hash?
Hash is the information and the speed of which the block is created.
So that's its own string of data, which creates the hash. All right.
The data that is stored inside a block depends on the type of blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain, for example, stores the details about a transaction in here, such as the sender, receiver, and the amount of coins. A block also has
So it's got the sender, the receiver, right? It's not like Joe and and Jill, right? You get it? It's not Joe and Jill, right? It is
So as you can see on your screen,
the number.
That address right there, those numbers and letters, that's your hash address. That's kind of like your account information. But no one has this. It's just a chain of computers verifying that your address is correct, right? The receiver or the sender's hash is correct, and it makes sure that the transaction is approved.
right. So there would be the hash from the sender and the receiver, and it's got to match up, which is also why you couldn't double send Bitcoin or another blockchain currency, because it has to match the sender and receiver with the hash ID.
All right.
As a hash, you can compare a hash to a fingerprint. It identifies a block and all of its contents, and it's always unique, just as a fingerprint. Once a block is created, its hash is being calculated. Changing something inside the block will cause the hash to change. So in other words, hashes are very useful when you want to detect changes to blocks. If the fingerprint of a block changes, it no longer is the same block. The third element inside each block is the hash of the previous block.
This is most important.
This effectively creates a chain of blocks, and it's this technique that makes a blockchain so secure. Let's take an example. Here we have a chain of 3 blocks. As you can see, each block has a hash and the hash of the previous block. So block number 3 points to block number 2, and number 2 points to number 1. Now the first block is a bit special.
Block
It cannot
chain.
point to previous blocks because, well, it's the first one. We call this block the Genesis block.
Oh,
Now,
very
let's say
biblical.
that you tamper with the second block. This causes the hash of the block to change as well. In turn, that will make block 3 and all following blocks invalid because they no
that's
longer
not
store
right.
a valid hash of the previous block. So changing a single
You know, we're
block
pretty much
will
playing
make
this guy's
all
video
following
and getting
blocks
views.
Valid.
He's probably gonna get
Hashes
upset,
is not enough to
but
prevent tampering.
you know what? We're giving it a
Computers
shot.
these days are very fast and can calculate hundreds of thousands of hashes per second. You could effectively tamper with a block
All right,
and
cool. Now you might ask, how are these blocks generated? How are they formed, right? Well, that's miners, right? So that's pools and groups of dudes with really high computing power, now specialty machines, and they are constantly trying to solve these algorithms. And when one is solved, the block is formed. And when the block is formed, the transactions occur, like I can send you Bitcoin, you can send me Bitcoin, right? And then there's a reward paid out when the block is formed. And then they start working on the next block.
And there's no people behind this doing this verifying stuff. It's all these supercomputers working together for your transactions.
Right, like there's no dude, right? Like when you go to the bank and they're like, you can't have an account here. They can't do that.
I think for a credit card transaction or a check, there's probably like 10 or 15 different people it goes through.
Now, also, what we just described with all those computers, that's proof of work, right? There's also proof of stake, which eliminates a lot of that.
Let's not get into
We're not going to get into that, but let's continue with this.
recalculate all the hashes of other blocks to make your blockchain valid again. So to mitigate this, blockchains have something that is called proof of work.
So to mitigate
It's
this,
a mechanism that slows down the creation of new blocks. In Bitcoin's case, it takes about 10 minutes to calculate the required proof of work and add a new block to the chain. This mechanism makes it very hard to tamper with the blocks because if you tamper with one block, you'll need to recalculate the proof of work for all the following blocks. So the security of a blockchain comes from its creative use of hashing and the proof of work mechanism. But there is one more way that blockchains secure themselves, and that is by being
ridiculous.
distributed. Instead of using a central entity to manage the chain, blockchains use a peer-to-peer network and everyone is allowed to join.
all right, pause that. Now, this is devastating to the banking industry, finance industry, PayPal, credit card industry, Western Union, just devastating. And they don't know what to do. They want to stop it, but they can't because it's just you and I and him and that guy and that guy. And we don't even know each other. And we're doing all this, right? So this is devastating, and that's a good thing.
When someone joins this network, he gets a full copy of the blockchain. The node can use this to verify that everything is still in order. Now, let's see what happens when someone creates a new block. That block is sent to everyone on the network. Each node then verifies the block to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. And if everything checks out, each node adds this block to their own blockchain. All the nodes in this network create consensus. They agree about what blocks are valid and which aren't. Blocks that are tampered with will be rejected by other nodes in the network. So to successfully tamper with a blockchain, you'll need to tamper with all the blocks on the chain, redo the proof of work.
Okay, so this is the problem with proof of work blockchains, right? So 51%, if you had a pool, a mining pool, right, where 51% of the nodes were together and in agreement and they were conspiring, they could control and change the blockchain. And that's a fault. That's definitely a chink in the armor of proof of work blockchains.
Yeah, and all those people are just running supercomputers. They're not really doing anything.
Right, they're all watching Pornhub, especially her in the top right.
And the guy with the bow tie.
Oh, the guy in the bow tie he's watching rubhim.com. And they're not really paying attention. But if they all got together, right? So like if 4 out of 6 of them got together in a mining pool, and those six miners represented everybody mining Bitcoin, if 4 of them got together, they could control the blockchain, and that would be trouble.
Work for each block and take control of more than 50% of the peer-to-peer network. Only then will your tampered block become accepted by everyone else. So this is almost impossible to do. Blockchains are also constantly evolving. One of the most recent developments is the creation of smart contracts. These contracts are simple programs that are stored on the blockchain and can be used to automatically exchange coins based on certain conditions. More on smart contracts in a later video.
We're probably going to use that video too. We're going to watch that one and pretend it's ours as well.
Soon others realized that this technology could be used for other things, like storing medical records, creating a digital notary,
All right, this is terrible.
or even collecting taxes.
Should we stop it?
Yeah, so here's the deal, right? We've got, Joe says that. Look, here's the deal. Look, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. I just pooped. All right, so what did we figure out here? We figured out what a blockchain is, right? It's not that big a deal, right? We're cryptards, right? So we think the earth is flat.
It was developed to be the most secure network for transactions ever. That's why it was developed.
Right. And Satoshi's the man. And even though he had a small penis, because he's Japanese, so he had a small penis, but he's still the man.
Small sushi roll.
Yep. And he created this for us all to kill the banking system, right? And to kill the Federal Reserve. So that's what we're going to do, And it's cool that you can do medical records and all that shit. But what are we talking about here, right? We're talking about crushing the Federal Reserve and the banking industry, right? We're going to get into DeFi. We're going to get into proof of stake.
No one likes banks.
Correct.
No one.
Not even banks like banks. Like they rob from themselves. So it's great that you're learning about this. This is the future. We're going to steal someone else's video next, and we're going to do one on proof of stake. So, smash it. Watch the short bus.
Subscribe.
Cryptards. Hold on. I got some
This is
music
the
here for you guys.
blockchain short bus right here.
There's something going on here. All right. That's it.
See you guys.
Signing off.